and sharing data working group at the beginning, but this time with the suggestion of Iryna and others that the enabling research to open science and open data is the main theme here. And I also asking for Thailand's sake, I asked Dr. Panchai to use the ThaiREN so we can be Thailand coming out, including Uninet and NECTEC and every other participant who are Thai that attend in this APAN. So last time we identified that we have the similar fundamental problem that we couldn't get access to the data and try to do the much better research. And we agree that the APAN could be a main driver to make this happen. So that's why we have this working group. That's the reason. And we have so many co-chair, so many chair. It's not supposed to be me to be chair. It's supposed to be Kiura-san, but he retired. And he said, I have to do it. If not, we don't have this working group. So I said, okay. Then we have Eric Yen from Taiwan as a co-chair, Professor Adi from India, and then Akane-san from Japan, Marcus from Australia, and Basuki from Indonesia as co-chair. And we also have this mailing list that if anybody not in there and would like to get some updates, then let me know and I will add you in. And we have like 5 initiatives that we think that we should get it moving. Oh, sorry. So it's raise awareness and support the capacity building. But the thing is, we try to do it through NREN. And this in the second session, we will need to discuss more on that and get the bullet point down and see that the who would like to take action and then help support on that. And we would like to get support from this, if possible, data discovery services, which might be the first thing that we could do, and respiratory and associated services that we could do. But we have to identify those, and we will do it later in the second session. And we need to do the standard as well, because without the standard, we will have problem later. So this thing is so many standards, but which one we would like to use, I don't know. We have to select one. And we need the collaboration from different agencies, different people that will be here. I hopefully that GoDan said they will join, UNESCO they will join, but anybody, we welcome everybody actually, but how to work together and push it forward, that's the main theme. And then we have to identify contacts. The problem that this time for next session that we have to talk that who will be responsible and help pushing this forward. Okay, that's very important. If we cannot identify the correct contact, I don't think many times I try, it's not gonna work. It will die down. So the plan for this time from last time that we have invite speakers from different and good practices. So hopefully we have some undertake deeper discussion which we will do in the second session. And then we try to engage the working group chair and see what they think. So we have one page came out, but I don't know, have to wait for Marcus to confirm that, because I didn't see it yet to send out for the other working group chairs. And then the possible that we can have maybe next time for the training or workshop. Okay, that's all I would like to just introduce it. So wait, let me stop sharing. So any question or anything? Nope.
Maybe just to add that today
okay.
we're holding a joint session with Confederation of Open Access Repositories So in this room, we have people from research and education networks and also people from libraries. I hope we'll have a fruitful discussion how we could collaborate together. And because UNESCO Recommendation on Open Science is such a landmark initiative, which is the first international framework of open science. We thought it would be important to talk about it and how we could implement the UNESCO Open Science Recommendation. My colleague Yoon was part of advisory group that created this recommendation, and perhaps we could invite Yoon to share her perspective. Over to you, please.
Oh, yes. Please, Eunjung, you can start. Oh, please turn on your mic, please, microphone, please. It's at the bottom on your left. The microphone is on the icon on the bottom left at the corner. You didn't.
Now it's okay. She's unmuted.
Oh, okay, she unmuted already. Okay, now please share again. Thank you.
Okay. I tried.
Okay.
This before the event starts, but again, I think there's some kind of issue.
Full screen, please.
Okay, so see it well? No.
Not yet.
Then let me just
okay, that's fine. But then
do it this way. Yes,
okay.
Given that time limit.
Okay,
kind of
all right, okay.
Please
continue. Sorry.
Work. Okay, so I'm again very thankful to be here. So given the kind of nice introduction before, I've noticed that I'm kind of new to this working group and the community, but as Iryna already introduced the UNESCO recommendation and the importance of the recommendation to the community, I'm hoping my short presentation can facilitate any kind of further plans and actions of your working group. So before starting my presentation, let me introduce myself again. I think it will be great for me to introduce the following story based on my personal backgrounds and experiences. As I mentioned before, I'm working at the Science and Technology Policy Institute. That's one of the governmentally funded policy research center located here in Republic of Korea. So as a policy researcher, I've been conducted multiple research projects on open science and research data. So that actually is a baseline for me to introduce the Korean status of open science today to you. And as Iryna already mentioned, there's a kind of UNESCO Open Science Advisory Committee member. I've been involved in the drafting processes and revising process of UNESCO Open Science recommendations. So given this nice moment, I'd like to share some of my understanding of UNESCO Open Science recommendation. And also, I would like to highlight the current role of STEPI. STEPI is Science, Engineering, Technology, Innovation Policy Network. It basically focus on Asia and Pacific region. And I'm serving as a vice chair of the STEPI from last year, and its main action plan focus area is also actually deal with open science practices and policies. So I think that will be good for all of us to actually be aware of. So given that kind of base background of myself, I'd like to briefly introduce UNESCO Open Science Recommendation and also current status of open science in South Korea, Republic of Korea, and current plan and practices and as a member of STEPI. So as we all know, UNESCO by nature actually has promoted the exchange of publication and artistic as well as scientific information and materials over the world since its beginning. And it advocated access to published and unpublished materials throughout the world. But it actually developed much more concrete strategies and recommendations in recent years, I guess, which include open access strategy as well as science recommendation, open educational research recommendation. Those are kind of base background, and the direct efforts to develop open science recommendation was begun in 2019, I think. So preliminary study was first conducted, and with a huge support from member states, UNESCO started to develop UNESCO's own recommendation on open science. It has involved multiple stage of regional as well as global consultation processes. In addition to the advisory committee members' activities. So finally, it was adopted last year. That's what we all know now. And I would like to highlight some key events happened during those processes. UNESCO Science Minister meeting timely addressed the importance of open science during the COVID-19 pandemic. And there is a Geneva call, joint appeal for open science made by WHO and UN Human Rights Office as well as UNESCO. And even right before the General Assembly, UN General Assembly last year, the online high-level event was held and addressed the importance of open science to build back better in the era of pandemic. And I think that's a very impressive quotation made by the UNESCO Director General. She said over 70% of scientific publication was locked behind paywall before the pandemic, but that was exactly the opposite. 70% of publication on COVID-19 are now available. Not thanks to the pandemic, but thanks to the consolidation among all kinds of academic as well as societal communities in order to combat COVID-19 pandemic. So within in the UNESCO Open Science Recommendation, it nicely presented international framework for open science policy and practices. In addition, it actually delineated the scope and definition of open science, and then identified key 5 action areas to promote open science over the world. Given this kind of background and context, let me briefly share some stories happened in my country. Korea itself is a huge R&D enterprise. Its investment in R&D and the scientific outcome from that R&D activities has grown over the time. So it's a kind of, I think, as a whole nation, is a R&D enterprise. Given that kind of background, the national government has made a mandate to deposit research outputs if that research output was made based on national R&D project. In addition to research project reports, papers, and patent information, and some related research outputs are asked to deposit to the designated open access repositories.
I just want to let you know you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes, okay.
Please,
okay. And also we had a national data research data strategies and related guidelines and projects, and actually deployed many and participated in a series of policy dialogue even before the UNESCO's Open Science Recommendation has made. But I think UNESCO Open Science Recommendation actually accelerate our attention and participation related to open science, and many kind of public awareness has increased. I mean, a substantial public awareness was obtained. Given this, the adoption of UNESCO's recommendation. So last year, joint declaration on open science was made, and national program on research data platforms further accelerated, and some additional efforts to disclose genomic data was also made. But I would say there are some kind of concerns and challenges still remained. So in order to overcome these kind of challenges, international collaboration, especially regional collaboration, is kind of critical. And STEPAN can be one of the domains to promote collaboration, policy, especially policy collaboration among Asian and Pacific region. It was firstly established in 1988, but resumed its activity last year again. So in 2021 revival meeting, member country identifies their increasing demands for information exchange on open science and practices, and agreed to develop action plan and on open science. So the board member, including myself, actually drafted the action plan this time and identified 3 key action areas, which include open science implementation activities as well. So this May we'll have an annual conference, and with a close collaboration with Jakarta office, STEPAN also will do much more do additional work to promote open science practice in this region. And so I think there will some kind of linkage between STEPAN and APAN. And in addition to this kind of STEPAN's activity, I would like to also remind you of the upcoming events, that is International Data Week. It will be held in this June here in Seoul. So registration is now open. So I look forward to see many of you in that domain as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was very useful, and what you mentioned about STEPAN, I think it's a perfect forum for us to collaborate there. And perhaps if you could add a link to the action plan, that would be very useful.
Yes, I will share that information with you after having a consultant to the board member. But it will be public soon once our website is open. It will be coming up soon too.
Thank you so much. And I don't see any comments, so perhaps we could move on to our next speaker. And we're moving from policy to standards. And our next speaker today is Professor Dr. Surya Durbha from IITB, India. And the talk is about open standards for geospatial data, interoperability and knowledge discovery. What's going on in India?
Yeah.
Over to you, Professor Doctor.
Good morning, everybody. Let me just share my screen. I hope you're all able to see the slides, and also I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible, and your slides are in a presentation mode.
Okay. Great. Thank you. So I'm going to talk about open standards for geospatial data interoperability and knowledge discovery. So keeping time constraint, 10 minutes, I'll try to quickly go through some of these issues related to how do we develop this open data standards and what are the existing standards and why it's important. So as we know that there are multiple vantage points in which you get this observation data. You got airborne, satellite, spaceborne, airborne, surface, subsurface. So a lot of data is being collected. You know, our archives are quickly filling up, but then we don't have a way to actually work with all the data. You know, 90% of the data is just lying hidden in the archives. We have not used it. Only 10% of the data is actually, you know, put into use. So this problem is because we're not able to access and work with the data and also discover the data that we need from the context we are working with. So because of those issues, we are not able to, you know, work with this data and then you know, able to integrate with our own projects or applications. So the motivation here is for an open science is from a researcher standpoint. Imagine a researcher here sitting and is looking to get you know, data directly from instrumentation that's put somewhere in the field, access to the instrumentation, network of sensors. And we are talking about computation that is also available in an open access mode, large computer grids, you know, cyber infrastructures available for researchers to use them. And then we're talking also about collaborators also on the same network who will be able to you know, instantly work with people in teams. Large teams will be able to work together. And then access to historical data, again, and then other important thing is models. Can we have these models also as a kind of a virtual sensors where you include everything together so that, you know, very important applications like weather forecasting, tsunami, pollution detection, all these kinds of science can be carried out. But the problem here is that the researcher here sitting here needs to have seamless access to all of these things. But it is not possible because of some of the issues related to syntactical, structural, and semantic heterogeneity problems that are there in this data and information sources. So here is an example where we are looking at trying to do a weather and environmental impact analysis. A large problem, probably we are working at the regional scale, right? So if then the data may not be available at a single place. It is distributed in many areas. Yeah, it could be somewhere in Australia or in Germany or in USA or some in India. So how do we bring all of them together seamlessly and rapidly? Because we are not going to, those days are gone where we are looking for someone asking for data, someone sending you a CD and all those things. Now everything is network. But then if you are trying to give access over the network through services, like web services, like sensor observation service or a web coverage service or any of the alert services, there needs to be standards integrated, because this single integrated client need not again try to understand what are these data models or the way the response to the requests for data has come. So we would need to implement the standards. So several standards are available. And then further to look at some of these applications like a geological sensor web or ecosystem monitoring sensor web or weather forecasting, where you see that we have got large networks of sensors relevant to that particular domain and application. And then the multimodal collection of this data and both from a fire sensor web or from a seismic networks or buoys on the ocean, which are collecting various marine meteorological parameters continuously. So there is a need for us not only to work in particular domains, but also interoperate between them. So what is the problem? The problem is that the user cannot find the data, but even if he tries to find it, he cannot access it and access it the way they want. It will be given in some obscure data model, which the user will have to find out. And then he don't know how good it is. What is the lineage of this data? What happened from the measurement to the observation? What are all the calibration curves that have been applied? How did you get this observation? The lineage is important. So we don't know the data. Most of the time we take on the face of it and try to use it, which maybe it doesn't suit our purpose of accuracy the way we are looking at. So we don't know. And if even if they find, you cannot merge with other data. So that is a big problem. So many layers of information we are working with, they need to be interoperable. We need to be able to have them. So OGC has got this web services. They've been around for some time. But then there are also web services that are very recent in nature. For example, services that related to working specifically with sensors related data sets. And then called the Sensor Web Enablement Framework. So these all have been standardized and enable us to do the seamless access. So many application areas, Internet of Things is emerged now. We are now looking from a standpoint of variety of protocols, standards, both from the sensing layer to network layer, communication layer, data dissemination layer. Many standards are coming around. So how do we have access to it? Because one of the big reasons is that we do not want to confine ourselves in silos. We want to interoperate between one application and the other application. How do we do that? So this way of interoperation is the key for us to have to work on multidisciplinary kind of projects. So spatial data infrastructure is one of the ways to be able to enable this kind of an environment where researchers or scientists would be able to access and do open science. So open, and then you need interoperable data frameworks to be able to achieve that. So finally, a researcher does the analytics and all those things, does the analysis. We are all trying to combine all of them and put them together in the form of a nice spatial decision support systems. So decision support systems require data more from the model outputs and then the knowledge of the domain expertise and then the data coming from various sources. So there are many ifs and buts, many sources of this information that needs to come together. So the national spatial data infrastructure in India, for example, is being developed from the last decade. There's a lot of push to develop a special data infrastructure where we have got standards related to the.
Excuse me, you have 2 minutes. No, just want to let you know that you have 2 minutes left.
Okay, sure.
Please continue.
I'm done almost. So we got a national special data infrastructure, and then a user framework approach where we talk from local to the national to the regional levels, various data layers. So one of the other problems is the semantic heterogeneities we often try to overlook. If you look at here, you're talking about wind speed, water temperature. You're looking at one catalog. It's called a sea surface temperature. There's ocean temperatures, wind underscore speed. So there is a lexical problem. There is granularity problem, at which if you see here, one of the networks, a Gulf of Maine Ocean Observing System, is giving data at a particular scale, particular granularity, where the other is giving it a different kind of a scale. So this kind of semantic conflicts is also important. It's not just enough to build syntactical standards, which are already there, but semantic standards are also important. So to be able to do that, we need to do knowledge representation. We need to come together and then try to standardize terminologies. So there is a lot of work going in climate, in hydrology, ocean-related domains, where these standardized domains, these terminologies are being developed. So to be able to do that, heterogeneous data sets, semantic reconciliation in terms of developing knowledge representation by using ontological frameworks, doing some kind of reasoning on it. And then we are moving from a syntactic representations to now knowledge-based systems, where we have completely achieved the interoperability. So this is a kind of work that we did earlier. I'm not going to go through all this, but just to say that there is a layer of syntactic standardization. At the top of is a semantic enrichment. This is a work we did for NOAA a few years back, and this is a kind of an application that was built where end-to-end interoperability is there, so that open science could be done. So this is just a book I have recently, in which we have described a lot related to this interoperability concepts. Thank you. I'll be glad to take your questions.
I don't see any questions. I hope there will be.
Yeah, we can do further at the end. It's fine.
As you rightly mentioned, interoperable frameworks are very important, and interoperability is one of the areas we will be looking at. Now moving on to national perspective, our next speaker is Kazu Yamaji from NREN in Japan. And
right.
what we should do towards open and sharing data. Over to you, Kazu.
So you can see my screen and my voice is clearly reached to you?
Yes.
All right. So wind up, 3 minutes for Marcus at the end of the speak. So, so as Eunjung introduced the UNESCO Recommendation Action Plan, so there's some words about infrastructure and the services. This is also one of the key topic when we are trying to facilitate the open science. In addition to the policy aspect and the open science activity itself, the infrastructure is so important. And the more interested part to me is denoted by the red part. So in this recommendation, they are described about to utilize the non-commercial open science infrastructure. This is also one of the things we can support from the viewpoint of the APAN activity. And also there's the words about NREN. So the National Research and Education Network can support somehow about a open science infrastructure even from their point of view. And when I think about, what we can do for the UNESCO recommendation and the more open global open science, the activity, as you know, so in Japan, we have already been operating the so-called NII Research Data Cloud, which is composed by the 3 different components. And not only providing these services to the Japanese researchers, but also, the most of the research is now collaborating with the international scheme. And also we are trying to, by using this kind of, that different type of platform, trying to support a Asian country or African country. And I'm working with Iryna and the EIFL to support their activity by using our platform or sipping somehow about our technology. And this is the kind of the activity or the support from the viewpoint of the NREN when we facilitate the open science infrastructure, but not only supporting the top layer application service. Of course, our service is running on top of our SciNet network and Identity Federation Cloud Service. So these are the important middleware or the low layer application we have to think about, when we think about what we can do as an APAN for the open science infrastructure. Maybe this is the kind of the keyword we can, the deep insight in the second session. And not only the APAN, of course, in RDA, there's a community. This is not in a SIG or working group, but still the kind of the group or a community. But they are talking about, even under the RDA, Research Data Alliance, how the NREN can support RDA activities. And these are the members in that, the group. And we are describing this kind of, what we can support from our point of view. I mean, the kind of the IT, the point of view, according with these kind of the research data life cycle. And not only just talking about under the RDA. This is the diagram, the EOSC future. The European Open Science Cloud. Recently, they have publicized this kind of, more activity. So not only trying to just say that EOSC or the European Open Science Cloud or the portal service. So they are starting to think about this kind of story, not only supporting each individual on the service, more, the collaborating or the connecting each other, including for instance, their storage service and the computing resources and discovery service, and also how we can pack the research object itself and then distribute it to the communities. So, so these are the, the key component as a APAN, and also as a NII Research Data Cloud has already been operating services. And there are so many similarities. And of course, the policy aspect is also so important. So the engine introduced the activity so-called STEPI, and they are the kind of the place talking about the policy. And this NI4OS, I don't know how to call it, but this is the one project under the EOSC, and they are talking about the national level open science policy framework and comparing that kind of policy framework. And of course, in order to, the activate or the land, that kind of, the policy, they need the infrastructure. So the policy and the infrastructure has to be the set. And otherwise, there's no reality. So this is also the aspect we have to talk about it in a second session, I thought. And this is my last slide. And then, gathering all together this kind of background or the information, when we think about what we can do as an APAN. So the first, as you know, we already have a AAI group, Identity Federation group, the cloud group, network guys. So our open science and that data sharing working group can pull their, the activity or the outcome, and then how to compile it from the viewpoint of the open science framework. This is the kind of, the one aspect we have to think about it. And then also maybe we need a killer application. Otherwise, people doesn't understand the importance or the reality of our open science infrastructure. And even in that area, in the APAN, we have an application area. So maybe there's a possibility of the collaboration under the different kind of the areas or the working group under the APAN, and then try to together make it together as a one single activity from the viewpoint of the open science. And also, finally, so right now the APAN is basically the people gathering the IT the perspective. So in addition to that, we need to get a more voice in the community from the library community and the library side. And that there is a gap between the two, even in a single institution, I mean a university, but we have to try to merge it together and how to, call the community into the APAN. This is going to be the one of the big challenge. With Marcus, that we have the long history we're talking about how to do that, but this is a good chance to talk to think about the game. So this is all about what I wanted to say, and maybe the kind of the souvenir to the second session. Thanks. So Chai or Iryna, give it to you. So
well, yes. Banu is not here, so Dries, please. You're next. You there?
Sorry, I have to stop my sharing.
Yeah, you stop sharing, please. Idris, are you there? Okay, if not, maybe Marcus, you have to come up first.
Hang on, I might just try and message Idris.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm
okay,
here.
okay,
If Marcus would like to go first, go for it.
No. It makes more sense when you go later. You go first.
Right. You first. Yes. Go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to make any slide presentations because I think we'll reserve that. I mean, like, for those people who might be interested in more detail, what we're going to be talking at our session later on. But first of all, thank you so much for allowing me in particular, but also a kind of like a peek into our activity later on today. So it really is quite a pleasure to be able to join this very distinguished group that is so far ahead in putting together all these frameworks, bringing them together. I think I see that I myself am very new to this space, but at the same time, I realize the enormous importance of this particular endeavor to be able to kind of push the agenda, particularly for people in the developing countries. So the key point is that what we're trying to do in our session later on is really about trying to make the this open science, open data sharing as part of a more meaningful activity in the emerging countries, because at the end of the day, impact is really going to be making a difference to the world as a whole if we bring forward the young scientists and other scientists and the diaspora scientists from developing countries to to participate more fully in the activities that you have. So the key point is that I really appreciate that there is a this communication platform already offered by APAN. Yeah, the key, there are three areas which we believe that scientists and policymakers for developing countries could would be able to become more engaged with the idea of open science, which is really part of well, I mean, which comprises of open access, open data, open source, and open peer review. So we see all these three areas are interrelated. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm the coordinator, outreach coordinator for e-research network for Southeast Asia. We are a small group of network people who belong to network providers, but also the universities and other organizations, to trying to bridge the gap between the capabilities in developing countries of Southeast Asia and other countries around the world, particularly advanced countries nearby in Australia and New Zealand. So we see, we very much keen to enter this space of open science, open data, because we believe that it can really impact at several levels, at the high level, at the macro level, but also at the micro level in the community. So coming back to what the 3 points that we want to really put forward is really, the first one is about open science communications. Another one is open science communities and tools. And last one is resources for open science. Yeah, we believe that on the first one, the open science, that we can truly promote true knowledge in society with an open and democratization of science, as well as improvement in practices and cultural change necessary within science itself and within society at large, particularly in developing economies. We really wanted to kind of put forward the idea that, or some principles which we believe sometimes gets lost in the translation, and that is that the sharing of knowledge itself is just as important as its discovery. So in terms of making impact to society. And the second point is that the knowledge possessed by the community in the form of values, beliefs, tradition, morality, and behaviors is critical to the successful uptake of scientific knowledge. And we see this particularly in this recent pandemic, whereby in some countries where there wasn't that strong push for a kind of science-led or evidence-based policies to deal with the pandemic, people become very easily tempted to believe in disinformation and misinformation propagated by some people or certain sections of the community or a global level. So the second part is the third part is that of the science communications is that lay knowledge and scientific knowledge are equal and necessary partner in the process of innovation and adoption. So open science means sharing knowledge and tools as early as possible, not only between researchers and between domains, but also with society at large. Last but not least, true communication is not just about sharing of information, but it's also about sharing of meaning and achieving a common understanding, so that it can really stimulate improvement in quality, efficiency, creativity of research, as well as trust by society to science at large. And in order to, I mean, in terms of communications, is that from the perhaps anecdotal evidence that we have talking to some people who are involved in the communications of science, is that not enough organizations really put aside a certain small percentage of budget towards communicating the outcomes, the key outcomes that will affect the society at large. So that's when it comes to open science communication. Another area which we would like to explore in our discussion of open science later on today is the idea of looking at the tools and communities. As we know, open science.
You have 2 minutes.
Yes, okay, thank you. One of them is the open science framework for open peer review, but then again, we have regional groups like the group to do with open science at the national level, like in Indonesia, we have Open Science Indonesia, but also at the regional level, we have Southeast Asian Network for Open Science. Last but not least, again, I think it's tremendous development that it's been featured here today by the earlier speakers, is that some countries have very good policies, and at the global level there are policies, but national level, I think there needs to be more explicit. There should be more explicit policies on prioritizing open science, so that policymakers, funders, and capacity builders can rally around their efforts. So I really commend the activities that's already been undertaken by Open Data and Sharing a working group, and also at the global level by UNESCO, and hope we could build the bridges and the links between what's happening at the macro, a high level, to the what's happening at the community level in society or within countries. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Now over to Marcus to present the concept paper and also lead us to the next discussion part and discussion session. Over to you, Marcus.
Thank you, Iryna. I just wanted to check, since we lost Banu and Veerachai was so good at chopping everybody after their amount of time, if anybody needed more time.
Yeah, later can.
We can add more if Idris or Kazu-san or Eunjung. Okay.
If I may just add a few, just to round it off, I wanted to mention that the session that we will have in the afternoon, or the afternoon Bangladesh time, is called the accelerating the paradigm shift towards open science and data sharing in the pandemic times and beyond. That will be on at 3:30 till 5 p.m. this afternoon, Bangladesh time, and it'll feature a number of speakers from Professor Yatna Supriyatna from the Indonesian Science Fund, Julian Cribb from Human Survival. He's also former CSRO awareness. And we have Professor Virginia Barbour from the Open Access Australasia, a couple of open science community leaders, Saranjit Bogal and Dr. Sandersan Oni. Last but not least, we have Dr. Kostas Klinos, who is the head of the Open Science Unit at the Director General of Research and Innovation at the European Commission. So that's going to be happening at 3:30 to 5 p.m. Bangladesh time, or UTC +6. Thank you.
Thanks, Idris. That was worth quickly highlighting. I have to confess that even, you know, I can never stop tinkering with my slides. So I've been editing as we've been going along. So I haven't shared my slides with you yet, Charlie. And I'll probably change them again as I'm talking. So for the people that weren't at the last meeting, I gave a presentation in the previous meeting of the working group around the national research infrastructure that has emerged in Australia and a few other places around research data and the value propositions and all those things. And for this particular meeting, Chai and I have talked about, well, what's the next step? How do we progress something? How do we make this real? Because it's very easy just to keep talking. But, you know, and setting out principles is wonderful, but pretty much everybody here understands the value proposition here. I've been a bit cheeky, so there's two cheeky elements to this. One is the paper that I shared to the working group a couple of months ago was entitled Towards an Asia-Pacific Open Data Commons. It is taking the title from the Towards the Australian Research Data Commons, which was a paper I was involved with about 15 years ago, which took a while to get some traction, but it got there. And I'll explain a bit more about that in a moment. The other one is the subtitle, Herding Chickens. I made a comment one time at a conference about this was almost as hard as herding cats. And, you know, that's a very common phrase in English, to herd cats is remarkably difficult. And somebody said, no, it's more like chickens. Cats don't care what you're trying to do. They have no interest at all. Whereas chickens at least all have something in common. They all want to get fed, right? So they're at least pulling in the same direction. And there is in fact a book, I've linked to it on Amazon down the bottom there, which is entitled Herding Chickens. It's a project management and other oversight kind of book, but it is very tongue-in-cheek, very humorous. My background partly is that I'm the general manager of APAN, but I'm actually wearing a hat here as somebody who's been involved in research infrastructure and particularly research data culture for many, many years now. And I've been able to watch the evolution of many of these discussions happening certainly within Australia. So let me take us forward a bit. What I want to just very briefly, I've only got about 6 or 7 slides, is to try and work out how to take us forward. And the problem is when you're moving forward is what's the path? And can we go on many different paths at the same time? Because we have so many different priorities and interests and needs. UNESCO has interests, FAO has interests, GODAN has interests, the World Bank has interests, you know, the ASEM, all the APEC, they all have particular priority areas they want to focus on, or they're just so high level that it's, you know, it's hard to pick concrete things to do. Importantly, we have finite resources. Much as I know that Kazu-san and Chai are incredibly rich and have, you know, huge numbers of people working for them, you know, reality is most of us don't, and it's not our day job most days. And the other thing to keep in mind is that we have many, many different cultures and practices. And I don't mean that in the national sense, but disciplines have their own cultures, their own way of doing things. Researchers as a group have a certain culture. You know, researchers affiliate very closely with their discipline and hardly at all with their institution, even though they're very tightly coupled to their institution and dependent on it. So we need to allow for all of that to occur. The opportunity, let me put the value proposition as before. We want to establish a large scale, Asia Pacific wide at least, international open data framework, but it sits within a global context. Things that are happening in the RDA and in the various national sub-communities, we can't disagree with that. We have to fit in with that. Research is, you know, crosses borders. I'm focusing on research, but I'm very conscious that there are other discussions around open data more broadly, around open government, open education, and in fact, quite a few other open things as well. But what this open data does, and because we're coming from the NREN partnership that is APAN and from our community, is that strong focus on research, where having this work does 2 important things. It enhances existing research to work more efficiently, more effectively, deliver more quickly, And for most researchers, it's about speed to publication. That's what they're measured by. That's a priority. The other thing is it enables research. It allows us to do things we could not do before. By bringing together multiple data sets from multiple sources, you suddenly get insights. I used to be an astronomer. I can speak to the way astronomy works here. Bringing in multiple different data sources gives you the most amazing power to do new things. And I think Kazu-san's slide had that quote, you know, if you can't access the data, what good is it? And if you can access the data, how do you know how good it is and what can you do with it? I think another part is that it improves policy and governance. Basically, a lot of the data that researchers use can be input to policy development. And that is something that we've done a lot in Australia. Not that the government necessarily listens, but what happens is that they've taken advantage of the research community and the research data to try and justify certain positions. And ultimately, as our research community cares about, is that we benefit society very broadly. And I'm going to allow everything from raw data through to publication, because some people do see open data being about open access publication, but I think that's a small piece of what we're going to be talking about. Where we certainly started from in Australia, and I think most other countries have as well, is we've had so many different investment programs in research infrastructure around data, and they've never been properly coordinated. In Australia, I counted over 20 programs at one stage supporting research data activities. We didn't have a lot of infrastructure, or if we did, it was distributed, it wasn't coherent, it wasn't coordinated, it wasn't linked, and it wasn't trusted. And that's one of the most important things for a researcher. If we ask a researcher to put their data somewhere, it has to be trusted as a service. And then similarly, if they want to share their data, that sharing has to be trusted by the recipient and by the sharer. So it has to be secure. Because some disciplines that really, really matters. I've dealt with medical researchers who wanted to visit our data center and inspect the quality of our security systems. They're completely unqualified, but they were required to do the inspection by their own funding bodies. The other thing is we have a lack of skills. We did not have people who understood the technical platforms. They didn't understand the standards, if there were standards. They didn't understand programming, if they had the right programs or analysis tools and so on. And we didn't have people whose job it was to fulfill those roles. And then really importantly is we didn't have the culture. People didn't understand why this was something to invest in. And this was at the researcher level, at the institutional level, at the funding model level, at the government level. All levels have to understand this value proposition. And they didn't understand how to do it. They said, oh, there's a million things we could be doing. Which one should we do? And where do we get help from? The situation in Australia today is that, and this is a slide from the last presentation, we now have a national federation of repositories for nearly every discipline. Some of them are more mature than others. Some of them are better coordinated than others. But we have many tens of petabytes that a researcher can access and easily find and get access to. We have the National Identity and Access Federation. We have the ability to create identifiers for both researchers and for collections. And obviously we have our national and international research and education network. We have disciplines that have increasingly, and I take Surya's point about geosciences, you know, standardization is occurring now more rapidly across all disciplines. We have compute infrastructure and compute in various forms. And really important, we have a policy framework and a funding framework that says you will make your data available or give us a really good reason why you're not doing it. And there are penalties that if you don't. You know, your ability to get more funding grants goes down if you can't justify or can't share your data. And really importantly, institutions are aware of their responsibilities in this space. That's something we didn't have 10 years ago. And we have people. Infrastructure is great, but without people to run it all, it's not much use. So we now have people with, we did a survey a couple of years ago. I think there were about 140 different job titles for people that were in this space. But essentially they came down to sort of these broad headings around research data management, or librarians in various forms, scientists, analysts, and so on. Now, the challenge, as I said, we have no money. Well, almost no money. There are some programs that provide some funding. We have a lot of interests from different groups, but they're for different pieces. And what we want to try and do is cohere those things. And there are many stakeholders, as I mentioned before, and I listed a few. And some of those are communities that can give us resources. And Kazu is absolutely right about libraries, for example, and archivists, and the DVC research, or vice president research of institutions, and the CIOs, and the research office managers who manage grants within universities. How we bring all those threads together when we've got 200 acronyms attending an open data workshop, it's easy for us to get lost. In most cases, it's nobody's job. All of us are here doing other things as well. And so we have to try and fit these in with our existing activities. There are many, many challenges that we have to tackle, and many dimensions on those. It is really easy to spend time on the value proposition. I think we all understand this is important and this is valuable and how it's valuable. We need to be talking to people that we're not talking to right now. So we need to move ahead. The approach I took was to try and put forward a vision with Chai's guidance. And I've cheekily called it the Asia Pacific Open Data Commons. Commons is the idea that it is something that is common to all, everybody can contribute, everybody can draw down from. The focus is data that is or can be open, and open is appropriate to the data. Some data can never be made fully open, or it can be made open but to a bounded community, things like that. You know, there's subtleties there. It can be shared as appropriate, so it's not just archived for the validation of research, but it's made reusable. We need the infrastructure to maintain it, store it, keep it accessible, and so on. That can be brought together with supercomputers and things like that. And really importantly, the community is along for the ride. They understand what's involved. They have the skills. The community has the skills, whether it's the researcher or the people that support research, is yet to be worked out. And they want it to work. They value it. They know that by doing this, by participating in these activities, they can drive this. In the paper, I referred to the 3 pillars, and I think it's a way of just mapping the various topics that we've talked about here and I've talked about in many other groups. There's the infrastructure, which is literally the bits and bytes and pipes and platforms and computers and storage systems and so on. This is the stuff that the NRENs and the research infrastructure communities can do really, really well. Once they prioritize it, once they invest in it, and some of them will need a bit more help than others. The other part is the workforce. We need people to have the skills. We need people who can ask the right questions. We need to have people who understand how these things fit together. And we need to talk to the researchers who actually have the needs and understand these requirements. And the other part that's really important is the culture. Researchers won't do things differently if there's no benefit to them. So we need to make the value proposition to them. And part of that is through the broader culture. And that can be everything from just the sheer, you know, if you do this, you'll have your publications will be more visible, or you'll have bigger publications or more of them. But also the funding bodies have to support this. The policymakers, the publishers can support this. And really importantly, the institutions have to be involved as well, because they all set the context for the collectors of the data and the users of the data. They may be the same person, the collector and the consumer, but in many cases, again, I'll pick astronomy. You can now do a whole PhD in astronomy without ever going to a telescope. You can just reuse existing data. And that's probably becoming increasingly true in many other disciplines as well. In terms of the actions, it's kind of a multi-dimensional problem, but we need to think about it somehow. It's per pillar. I think each of those pillars has a set of activities. It needs to be done, I think, per economy or per NREN within each economy, and probably upwards. And the reason I raise that is, if you talk about doing an international partnership of anything or an international federation, you can't connect if your country, your own home institution, doesn't support you. we can't build a federation from the top down. All we can do is put an umbrella over it and say, when you're ready, come and join. If you're not connected to a network, if you don't have access to identifiers, if you're not part of an identity federation, if you can't move data quickly and efficiently, then it's really hard for you to participate. All you can do is wave the flag and say we should be doing this. So we need to make sure that each country, each economy, each NREN helps to lift everybody within that, and then it becomes easier to connect them all. I think there are things we need to do per discipline, because the discipline requirements are so different. I've spent many years now talking with disciplines and going to their conferences. I've been to the geosciences, I've been to the physics communities, I've been to the biosciences and the telemedicine groups, but I've also been to linguistics, humanities, arts and social sciences, and they have remarkably similar needs, but very different contexts. I stress we do everything in partnership. We have to be part of the global activities. And if somebody comes along and UNESCO or FAO or GODA and says, oh, look, we want to invest in this space, we have some money or some people or some other resources, great, let's take advantage of that. Some of the things I referenced in the paper, and I think maybe the paper can help, is there are some things we can do quickly. We need to understand what's happening now. We need to do some mapping. And that can be per discipline, per economy, per technology, per whatever. There are some priority needs and some easy wins. And there are things that we can very quickly do without a lot of effort. We can provide a central hub for information and knowledge to be provided, and we can promote that. APAN has phenomenally good reach into the research community, and we can use their channels, and our members have even deeper reaches into their domestic communities that we can use to promote some of these activities. The number of links I get sent every time I go to one of these workshops, I keep collecting them, and like there's another 4 in the chat right now. Making those visible is great. And we're able to pull together things sometimes for particular context. So doing that is an easy win. And I think the hard one, but really, really important, is the support for culture change. Helping people to understand the value of this, helping to understand the, how can I put it, the cost of failing to do something. In some cases, you can say, this is a great thing to do because you get these great outcomes. And they go, oh, that's wonderful. Why should I put money into it? And then you say to them, well, you're actually wasting money by not investing in this as well, because you are recollecting data. I mean, I made this point in the last workshop. There are many, many reasons why not doing this costs you more money in the long term. The ability to validate research, for example, is increasingly important. I'm going to stop there before Chai yells at me, and we can move into more discussion there. The paper has a lot more topics and components, and it is there as a straw man. It is there to be argued over. But, I think we need to try and come up with some concrete steps, even if they're small steps. But if we have that broad vision overarching it, then that will really help us. Back to you, Chai, or Iryna.
Okay. Iryna have to leave because the airstrike at the moment. So she has to duck somewhere. I don't know. So she said she will be back after the airstrike. Hopefully, it's not going to be that long. So yeah, we're trying to listen to you. I didn't cut you off because that's what we would like to pursue in the next session and get maybe a small step, but move forward. Not just like trying to get many talks. So, any question, opinion, or recommendation for other? Suni, you have anything? Yes.
This is Gus. Yeah.
Okay, please.
Yeah. It's so important, to think about the step-by-step approach. That all the things Marcus said is, we agree, but there are so many things to do. So the important things is, how to go forward as an APAN activity in a step-by-step approach. So, of course, we need to get the help or, to gather the effort from the different working group or the activity. Maybe the Identity and Access Management Federation is one of the key role to play. So because, you know, they are also looking for the killer application right now, not only the, you know, just logging into the Elsevier by using the, you know, the identity. It's a bullshit, you know. So they need to get some, you know, real research tools, virtual research environment, which facilitate the research itself. This is, you know, the big glue with us, between us. And also, as I mentioned before, and Max also pointed out how to collaborate with the library activity. So that this time, so we invited Suni in the library communities to be able to be here. So the Suni, do you have any comments or something from your point of view?
Yeah, thanks very much, Chai, Kazu. Yeah, it was a great and very inspiring, you know, presentation by Marcus and Eunjung, Idris, Kazu, yeah, etc. So I really like the idea of coming up with an Asia Pacific Open Data Commons. I think that we will definitely be able to create more synergy if we work together. I think it's useful to identify the priorities. I'm looking at the last slide of Marcus' presentation. So how do we then identify the priorities? Because the APAN itself is quite diverse, and I think different groupings will have would be at different stages. And what would be the more immediate need? How do we then find out? Because I find that we are shooting in the dark if we are just making guesses. And yeah, so what would be the different levels of maturity state that we want to move towards?
I think one thing with, I take Sydney's point really well. It's how do we prioritize when there are so many things to do? And I think the two ways that you can prioritize something is because it's really, really urgent, or because it's really, really easy. Because if you can start to demonstrate benefits, it's easy to convince people when you show them something. You know, I can talk to you about how wonderful all this stuff is, but it's much more effective if I can show you. And so having a way of identifying what are the high priority needs of our community, and I think, you know, Kazu's made the point before, our working groups are really a good place to start. The application working groups as well as the technology ones. And then there are other things that we can do that might be quite easy to do. You know, obviously it's easy for us to arrange meetings, to bring speakers in, to bring in expertise and so on. We can set up platforms pretty easily. It's easy for APAN to host a website. It's easy for an NREN that is already doing some of this work to show what they're doing. I can point you to 100 websites in Australia for different disciplines. That are offering, well, in Australia we call them the virtual labs. I think it's slowly being overtaken by the research platform acronym, that are basically a discipline-oriented environment for researchers to work into. And then there are things for other communities we can point to, like in libraries in Australia. The Australian library community is incredibly active in this space. But I have very little knowledge of what's happening in other people's library communities and how they're getting involved in these discussions. And do they want to be? I think they should be, and I'm happy to help work that out. But yeah, that might be a way of taking 1,000 things we could do and picking a few.
Yeah, I recently chanced upon the open air checklist for open science. And it has got 14 listed items in the checklist, ranging from policy, roles and responsibilities, open science activities, to funding, compliance, revision and update. So I will try to share the link after I've found the link. And I thought that I think I might have the link here. Okay, so let me just share it. And I thought that maybe we could use this, as one of the ways for people to perhaps identify their priorities. Okay, so the link that I've just shared is for research performing organizations. The second link is for research funding organizations. Yeah. Let me see whether I can share screen so that we can all look at it together.
Excuse me a little bit. I don't know that Mahidol University would like to share some thoughts a little bit. Okay, if not, please continue, Suni.
Yeah, you're most welcome. I would love to say hello to Mahidol University as well.
Yeah, I think it's time to turn on the camera so at least we know you are there.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can take a look at the maybe use tools such as the Open Science checklist for people to take stock of where they are for Open Science. And they could then, we could discuss the priorities from there. Yeah, in terms of what we want to do as a group. Are you looking at my screen now?
We can see.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the Open Science Policy Checklist for research performing organizations. There's a separate one for funding organizations. Yeah, so it has got 14 statements. So as an institution, we can rate ourselves whether we are A, B, or C. A indicates higher readiness. So if I think that I'm A for this, I will mark myself as A. Otherwise, it's B or C. So the more A's you have, the more ready you are. And after looking at all the 14 statements, we could within the institution, you can see where you want to work on, in terms of your B and C, because you wouldn't be able to work on all the B and C's at one go. So you may need to prioritize. So I thought this could be one way to kickstart the conversation in terms of identifying priorities.
Suni, I thought, this is a good tool to evaluate the maturity level of as an institution from the viewpoint of the open science. But our activity is under the APAN, so maybe we have to set up some boundary condition how the APAN can do for the open science something. Not only, the limited to the technical part, but of course we have to include some, the political, the policy aspect as well. So and of course, in some maybe having this kind of checklist and they're evaluating the differences in the condition in the different country. This is also the one of the activity, and also maybe that's going to be could be the kind of the one of the activity engine that introduced STEPAN. I forgot the name of that abbreviation. STEPAN.
Yes,
also maybe it has to have a similar activity. So this is also good, but at the same time, as the Marcus introduced some aspect what we can do for as an APAN activity. So of course I have no the conclusion in this discussion, but maybe we have to set up, also have to think about how as APAN can think about it.
Perhaps in the next session we can get the action thing, the last slide that Marcus presented, and then we can identify something.
So, Angel,
please. Yeah, please.
Can I add
Yes, yes.
one comment before finishing the session? It was a really great pleasure to participate in this wonderful session. And I got to actually think about what kind of collaborative efforts can be done based on this kind of regional networks. That's the same kind of issues actually we are facing as a STEPI member, and also a member of UNESCO in the process of implementing UNESCO recommendation. So yes, there is a multiple policy frameworks and assessment tools to diagnose what's the current gaps and weakness as an institution or as a whole, one single nation. But absolutely, there's not certain guideline or some common understanding on how to develop the collaborative activities as a regional network. So that's the takeaway message I've had in this session. It's not a solution, but I think you raised a very big and important questions throughout the session. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love this, that real, actual discussion. But when I answer to that, the question, our network has already been interconnected each other. So people are, going back and through the network. So it's okay in terms of the network. On top of the network, maybe we can talk about maybe identity federation. So even it's the federation for the login system beyond the country, and we already have the EduGain or EduRoam. So we are the moving and over the continent, over the country, and connect each other. But even though we have such a kind of the middleware or infrastructure, the real part, how the people can come and back and forth by using the real application. So this is not gonna be happen as I forgot the name, how to call Surya. So you mentioned in your field. So the real the interconnection is not yet happening, especially focusing on the common platform. I mean the shared platform. So this is going to be the big challenge.
Yeah. So we will continue in the next session and identify a couple of points that we can move forward. That what we are looking for from this time. So okay, before we close, may all of you turn on your camera so we can just take a group photo. Can you do that? Okay, great, thank you. Other? Well, I guess this is all. So 1, 2, 3. Okay, I got it. Thank you. And then please come back in half an hour, I think. Yeah. And then we try to nail it down, huh? If we could. Yes. Okay. Give this a thought. Thank you. See you a bit.
Thank you.
Lunch.
See you.
Yeah, see you again.
Julian, we okay, he left.
All right, see you soon.
See you.
What were you going to ask, Joe?
No, nothing. I just gonna tell Julian that he just joined, that come back in half, and please come back. Just say that. Not many people, but I hope Iryna is okay. Nah?
Yeah.
It's the airstrike. Come on. Yeah, not supposed to be. Not supposed to be. Yeah, I don't understand.
It's a crazy. Well, I was gonna say it's a crazy world. It's only a few crazy individuals.
Yeah. What can you do?
Yeah.
Hopefully
right.
she's okay.
Yeah. All right.
And
I'll see you in half an hour.
yeah. Okay. See you in half an hour. Bye.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, everything okay?
It was a short one. Yes.
Oh, a short one, okay. Okay, yeah, good. Good to hear that. So it's like every day, this airstrike?
Well, it's every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours. Oh my.
But not specifically in my region. So in my region, it's usually a couple of times a day.
Well, I hope they will, reach the agreement soon.
Mm,
It seems like not gonna be the easy one.
We have some Thai soldiers that came to fight for Ukraine.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, hopefully it's I don't know. I think they don't, Putin doesn't want to call it a war, but it's just like special operation. So it's not well, hopefully they can talk. I don't know. Seem to be difficult to get because you want different things, so it's very difficult.
Yeah, and they are losing on the land because their army is not as strong as everyone thought it is. So that's why they're using missiles and bombs.
Yeah.
That's the only tool they have.
Well, hopefully it's not going to be a nuclear war, because everybody lose. Not supposed, not the way. No. I don't know that NATO will move it or not, but
No, NATO wouldn't.
yeah, no, yeah, hopefully not, because that will accurate it and will, yeah. You think it's gonna last long?
Well, if we could have some war jets, and looks like we will get some, then we could stop the air attacks, and we could end the war. But if we don't get those jets, then it would be hard. We have a very good air defense system. That's what basically saves us. So there are over 600 missiles shot in civilian areas. So
not good. Yeah, not good. They know that they're doing it anyway.
And how did the session end?
Well, we ending that for the next session, we'll try to get something, not everything, because we know that there's a lot of I don't know, so many things to do, but we have to prioritize, identify which we could do within the framework of APAN. Just try to discuss and list that out. So maybe it would be good to, maybe make some note or something, I don't know. And then not going to be many things at the same time. Not very simple task, but we have to try to find a way to move forward. So we have to, this time we have to list something out. And then we try to follow from that. And from Marcus, I think last slide, he's saying like a few things that need to be identified, which is perhaps we start from that.
Because there are also some activities in the concept paper, and I thought maybe we could show that as well.
Yeah, you could start with that as well. Yeah. So we that's the thing, we try to identify a couple and try to do something and get, I don't know, even the Kazu is here. Yes. Oh no, he's not here, but he's saying that for NREN it's very easy to approach them, but I'm not sure that that's simple really. But we need to try to approach them first and see how their reaction So I really don't have no idea. Even the working group chair, other working group chair, we didn't approach them yet.
No, I think it's like Marcus said, that everyone is busy and everyone has a full-time job.
Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know, but hopefully it's not just another meeting. We just have to get something out and then put it forward. You can, you can list out so many things, so many documents that you can use or follow, but to make it real, that's a different thing. Okay.
And you were sharing your screen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sounds right. Yes. Kasim. Yes. They will make public. That's what they said. I'm in the technical committee, and they're saying that after that they'll put those in the YouTube, I think. So yes, it will be public.
That's what I wanted to show from the concept paper.
Okay. Okay.
Activities and then workforce activities and others. And then maybe we could start with at least.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And then the one that the Marcus, wait, this last slide, good. I think, wait, let me see here, this one. This one Kazu, but he didn't share the slide yet, so I don't know. But this one also can lead to what we trying to do, maybe a few points, a couple of points, and then with the Marcus asking the question that we need to try to get a person, responsible person, to follow up, because if I try to do it myself alone, it's not gonna work. I don't think so. So maybe we can have a couple of points and try to, you go follow that, I go follow that, Kazu can follow that, Marcus follow that, and then we can come back together and then try to get a summarize what we can do.
And we could also have some task forces, and
maybe your mic is not that a little bit difficult to hear your voice, Iryna. Maybe you increase it a bit.
I don't know.
Now it's good. Now it's that much better. Yeah.
Strange mic.
Yeah.
Outside.
Mine is close here. That's why he was down.
So I'll set up a shared Google document for notes.
Okay.
Give me a second, because I need two hands to do this.
Okay, please. See you a bit, please. Well, we have to wait a bit for people to come back. Okay.
Do you think everyone understands that there is a new meeting link for this session?
Yes, I hope so. Yes. Wait a bit. Maybe they, yeah, see, they're coming back. Yes.
I was worried maybe they're still using the old link.
Yeah.
Hey guys. Marcus has already been come back to. All right. He's here.
Slowly coming back. Yes.
Mm.
Okay.
I set up a Google Doc for shared notes.
Give us a link. Thank you.
So in the chat, there's a Google Doc that if you have any comment, anything, you can put it in. So not all of them coming back, but we can start.
Yeah, let's get started.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can start.
Yeah, thank you, Sunny.
Yeah. So what do you think, Marcus? How to get it moving, or Kazu-san, how should we? So
yeah, I need the Marcus your slide again. So maybe there are some the point we have to think about the several pillar you pointed out at the end of the slide, or maybe the letter.
Yeah, maybe you share your slide again at the end or something that.
We also have some suggested activities in the concept paper for infrastructure, workforce, and other areas. So I could share that as well.
Yeah.
Marcus already listed some suggestions.
Okay.
Maybe we could prioritize them.
Yeah, I think the slide was really a very poor summary of what is in the paper. So maybe the paper is a bit more useful, but
okay. In that case, please show us the paper.
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, if you would like to give any comments, please do so. Dries as well.
Sure, I will.
So maybe if we start with infrastructure activities, there are lots of suggestions.
Is there an online version of the paper?
Probably not yet, but we send out a couple months ago.
Yeah, but we only send out to the members of the working group, and
Right.
is not a member.
Why don't I convert the well, I can just email it to you, Sune. I mean, I don't know how many other people didn't get it. Or I can convert it to a Google Doc and share it that way.
Yeah, that's great.
You keep talking, I'll focus on that.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
thanks,
Chai,
Marcus.
please add Sun in the our
Yeah,
mailing.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll add her right now, but Iryna, would you please continue? Then I'll add her in the mailing list.
So one suggestion is to set up a data at APAN.net website to support communication activities, set up services to provide registries of collection, discipline repositories, and associated discovery access services. And I guess here we need to make sure that we are not duplicating already existing registries. Then setting up services to provide registries of suitable HPC cloud computing services, both non-profit and commercial. Coordinating the establishment of services for DOI maintain and also for ORCID to maintain. And then serving annually the maturity of the economies of the region and discipline perspectives on the infrastructure. And these are just some of the suggestions. So please, colleagues, if some of those suggestions are of higher priority for you, please speak up. Or if something is missing, that's the right time to add it here or in the shared Google Doc. I mean, speak up now and then we'll add it. So document.
Yeah, I have a question.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm new to APAN, so I'm just wondering, by looking at these possibilities, is there any APAN funding to help facilitate the setting up of these services, or even to sustain the running of these services?
So let me answer that while I'm also trying to find Google here. Basically, there's no allocated recurring funding for most of these. There is Secretariat and General Manager support for platforms and technologies. So we do fund our websites, and we have many websites. Every meeting gets its own website, for example. So we fund that. The maintenance of the websites, we tend to delegate, or the Secretariat can handle. In this particular case, I would take care of it. And then the services that go under it, we'd look to partner with, let's say NRENs or other infrastructure providers to help out with it.
And I guess, and the Marcus, in addition to that, when I was running the IAM, Identity, the Federation, the working group, so we tried to get the fund from the TAIN. So is that still available?
Yep.
To get
so
TAIN?
well, it's Asia Connect now. So TAIN is the office, Asia Connect is the funding program. They run one funding cycle a year, so that's possible. But the next one won't be till late this year, I imagine. The other thing I was going to also mention is that APAN has its own grant program. So small amounts of money, order 10K, could be made available to support this. And if it's an ongoing thing that's valued, then absolutely we can talk to the board about that. I did want to mention too, I don't know if people saw that, I just noticed recently UbuntuNet, sort of our equivalent in Eastern Africa, they've just started offering a DOI minting service at cost, but it's aggregated costs. So there are things like that we can explore. APAN is also looking at a certificate service, and we're already talking with ORCID about doing ORCID support for researchers in Asia Pacific as well. So we'll try and attract funding as required.
Okay.
You mentioned Ubuntu Net Alliance, and together with them, we have a similar initiative for Africa, which is called LeapSense, and we are writing an African PAD strategy document now. So maybe when it's ready, I can share it with the group, and we could see whether some of that could be applied to Asia Pacific as well.
And the thing too is that setting up a demonstrator is fairly easy. As soon as people start relying on it, that's usually when you have problems. So it would be nice when we set something up that we think about how to sustain it. You know, and in some cases it might be a fee for service, or it could be something that's covered through membership fees. We have the ability to adjust the budget in APAN each year. But if there are other external funding sources, Kazu-san mentioned Asia Connect, Tankstar, who knows, maybe we could invite UNESCO to contribute, or FAO, or Godan, or somebody.
I'm afraid UNESCO doesn't really have funding.
Oh, really?
No. Okay, I don't know. Banu is not here, but he keeps saying that they have.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but that's like 5,000 a year type of funding, and I don't
okay.
think that's sufficient. I was also wondering, perhaps we could add supporting shared repository platforms. What Kazu was mentioning as a case for Japan, and NAI is also helping us in Myanmar with a national repository platform, or maybe sharing experiences of running national repository services as an activity.
Yeah, it's gonna be, you know, the good example. First, we're gonna support their activity at the beginning, because, you know, there's no confidence in their the country, and then try to move their operation into their the NREN support, like that way. So in that scheme, we can support somehow by using our budget or our resources, including the human resources, of course.
Oh, please, Dries. Yes.
Thank you very much, Veerachai. I think what Iryna is saying is really an excellent idea. Particularly, there are some countries already have the repository for scientific publications. So if you have, I mean, if APAN could become a kind of like a compilation of those, so that people would easily be able to find them, and a little bit of explanation of what each one of them covers. The other thing is that at the sort of disciplinary level, there are some activities that are already at the regional level as well as at the global level. For example, in the open science or open life science, there are communities that are being built there. And so maybe, you know, some of the website that we have, we could perhaps link them, or kind of like create something that would enable people to be able to easily find them. Last but not least, I happen to be based in Australia, and I see that the Australian science media organization has a fantastic coverage of experts' opinion, and I was wondering if there could be something like that being linked to other countries' life or science journalists, because at the end of the day, I mean, we want to get a lot of these not duplicating each other, and to be able to learn from each other's experience, maybe. Thank you.
So, Iryna, which one you mentioned? So, you mentioned about to launch some the kind of the national level database or repository things by in a country who doesn't have it, or you mentioned to launch some APAN aggregator?
Well, I meant just be a space to share experiences about running these national platforms and maybe offer advice, support.
So the
I'm not
people
sure
have to know the possibility.
So let me ask a bit, Marcus. So we can have this data.apan.net to start with, and then we can get support from Kazu-san to get something in there to demonstrate or to show that it can be done.
I don't know what's this data apan.net.
It's just a proposal. It's just a proposal by Marcus that the APAN can host it as well. So it doesn't matter. It can be anything.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's a location, a hub for all these conversations. I don't see APAN providing infrastructure to store data or publications, but directories, registries, those sorts of things that can be harvested and automated. I mean, one of the really useful platforms in Australia was unfortunately has the same acronym, but it's Research Data Australia. And it's basically a harvesting tool that just goes out and talks to all the repositories that choose to register with it. And it gives you one place to do a search for data collections or publications or things like that. And that's open source software that's freely available. And that uses standard, well, it used to be OAI PMH harvesting standards. I'm not sure it still works that way. You know, providing an environment for that and maintaining a little bit of software inside a WordPress website is relatively easy. But we can also set it up like a wiki that anybody can come into and put links in. We can host a discussion forum there. I mean, the number of URLs just in this session alone, or the last two, there's some really nice information there, some really good examples. And we probably need to curate that a little bit. But at least we've got one place, and data.apan.net was just my suggestion that one, APAN takes responsibility, and two, it's very easy to read out. You know, because every other URL is really long and painful. But it also, from my perspective, wearing my APAN hat, demonstrates, you know, APAN's role in bringing communities together.
Okay.
And it's
so
apolitical, it's everything.
It's a kind of, you know, the symbolic side, what we are doing, and so that we can do from the much more easier to start.
You don't need to ask for permission as much. You just have to ask me if I'm in charge of it, but that's all.
Okay.
And that can host all sorts of technical services, or it can just be a flat discussion site or a collection of information links or something. You know, it depends which one of these things people value. And in some cases, it may just be a pointer to what's happening within each country. You know, so if there's a really good site in Japan that talks about the open research data in Japan, and everybody who's in Japan or is interested in Japan should go to that site, we just send them there. We're not going to replicate anything that's got government funding or something behind it. But the first step in all of this is awareness. It's just making people aware that something exists and something's happening. That was the thinking there.
All right.
Is it possible, Kazu? Is it possible?
The Marcus said, you know, there's a free open source software to do so, and then we can launch something. And also, I don't know who will, you know, the pay effort to do that, but maybe we can support that activity.
Just to start.
And
so, how do you think about Junichi is here? I saw him. So You know, sometimes I'm gonna be a very ghost person, never response for a while because of the hectic work. So I need to get the support from the young guys.
Thanks for your chance for me. And
Here, willing to contribute to the the chai and the markers with you guys.
Okay.
So, and sorry, and this is the out of the discussion. So so this is a very good opportunity for the young guys to contribute to the international scheme. We are all not the native speakers, and then myself learn how to communicate with the international the guys in English. So that was started in the APAN, the activity. So I want to give the same experience to our young guys to get insight into the the international collaboration.
Okay. So then we can start. Junichi, you would like to say something?
yeah,
Please.
I agree with your many discussion about the collaboration based on some infrastructure or open source softwares. And yeah, I also agree with the Kazu's mind of collaborating with some kind of educational aspect. Sorry, kind of growing up young researchers and collaborate globally, and we can make more excuse me very hard and stable platform with many countries. I hope APAN to be such kind of fundamental place to get good
And
infrastructure.
He's expert in a discovery service.
Yes.
So it's a very good, the position to support.
Yeah. I'm in charge of the Japanese national discovery platform called SINI, and I can collaborate with API or data interacting, or so we can provide, or we can get from some other countries, and we can connect with interoperable a bit. Sorry. Yes, interoperable place. I hope so.
Yeah, and the Marcus and Chai. So in addition to having these kind of, the data apan.net and the website, so as maybe the Iryna wanted to say, so I thought it's better to have in each APAN meeting, having some round table what are happening in each country, or how the this NREN can support which kind of things, and how progress so far at that moment. Of course, even in the half year doesn't happen any progress, but having these kind of conversation continuously is so important. And sometimes we can invite some the symbolic person, and then sometimes we can invite some IAM person or cloud person to our the discussion. And then so I want to have such a kind of the local communication within the working group, the continuous the discussion.
Okay. So any other thought? Dries, I saw your hand up. Maybe you would like to say something.
Yes, I think there is I think it's really good to see what Kazu is doing and trying to facilitate for the younger groups to come forward. And I think in terms of communities around certain disciplines, they're certainly coming on very, very strong in certain areas that I know of. For example, in the open life sciences that I mentioned before, but also there's been generations of people now working under the Google platform. There's Google communities. So I think what Marcus is saying is also good to maybe to have, and Kazu is saying aggregator. I mean, you cannot expect to IPAN to create content, but certainly regional aggregator, and also some links with RDA, because RDA is too broad, and many people are saying that it's heavily concentrated with membership in the northern hemisphere, not so much in the southern hemisphere. So yeah, I think what you guys are proposing could certainly be operationalized, and we just need to spread the word around to bring in those communities and make the aggregate website richer.
And on the Idris, I would like to ask you to bring your community, I mean the Indonesian Open Science Commons people or something you mentioned about it when you talk.
Yeah.
So you know that we need the regular person from your the community close to.
Well, actually, there is also the Southeast Asian group, or they call themselves Open Science. Sorry, Southeast Asian Group for Open Science, and that's actually already got the backing of the international science organizations. So yeah, it's a matter of linking up these groups, and I actually invited the chairman of that group, the Southeast Asian Network for Open Science, but unfortunately he's preoccupied, but he will appear tonight at our panel discussion at 3:30 or a bit later, 3:30, probably about 15 minutes or so. So yeah, I will try to relay all the outcomes of this meeting to him, so that and to a number of other communities that I know, so that they could consider themselves knowledgeable of what's happening, and so maybe approve to join in the aggregator website that you're proposing.
And not only that, the bigger person like a chair, that we need more, the younger people who can, join and work together.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, when I talk about the chair, he's not, senior. He's still fairly young, and I think he's one of the young up and coming researcher. So it's a good to see that's happening. Yeah.
And he's a much more political side person, right? So
no, he's actually a scientist. He's a scientist he's a scientist. So he's not political, not from the government or anything. No, it's not ASEAN. It's different. It's ground up. ASEAN is another story that's more like organization of governments or government departments. But this is when you have Southeast Asia, it's just people from the ground up. Yeah.
So that's going to be a good opportunity to, to talk with the tech guys, I mean, the engineer. So historically belongs to the APAN.
Talking about ASEAN, I will talk with the new chair from Singapore. Actually, he's Adrian from the same place that Suni is.
Really?
And TU, he's the chair for the ASEAN Hydroinformatics data center. I'll talk to them. They will have meetings soon. I don't remember when, so they can join as well, if that's possible for them.
Oh, can you link me up with him?
Okay, I will. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
So, any other thought?
Yeah, if I may.
Please.
Yeah, I'm looking at the researchdata.edu.au, the link shared by Marcus. So yeah, it's a very good example of what we could aspire towards. It is not just metadata discoverability, but also curated information, tools that can be utilized. So I think it would be great if we can put together the input from the various representatives from the APAN members towards this.
We could,
yeah.
you suggesting we could start with the similar thing.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm also thinking about those who may not have existing repositories. Because this example, Research Data Australia is harvesting existing repositories. I'm thinking about those APAN members that may not have institutional repositories. So yeah, that could be maybe another step that, you know, that we could be looking at yeah, later.
Yeah, this is what the Sunny, the Iryna mentioned about our collaboration between the EIFL and the NII. So we are supporting the Myanmar National repository, and then, you know, the by getting the budget from the EIFL, and we are providing some human resources and the technical support to launch their repository. So this, and of course, we have to think about the much more sustainable model, how they can operate by their own effort. So in that case, maybe they have to get some support from the NREN or more, you know, the technical university. So we can, you know, provide such a kind of our experience to the other countries. And then, you know, if there's we can gather the audience who doesn't have a repository, and then maybe share such a kind of information we experienced so far, and then maybe extend if something could be happen to the other countries. And of course, maybe the similar things can be the information or experience we can obtain from the Australian the activity was, or New Zealand activity or something, maybe. So, you know, the sharing such a kind of the information, and then maybe got some applicants to really support under the, you know, the APAN activity. But of course, the resources coming from each individual, the NREN or the country. But the framework maybe could be built in under the APAN, this working group.
The repositories in Australia took off when the government started to set policies around open data and open publications, or discoverable publications at least. So that meant the universities could argue for funding to support that. Because ultimately, they're the ones that provide the identifiers for the people and employ the researchers who actually do the work. So they're really important in the conversation. But in many cases, as we transitioned over sort of a 5 to 10 year period, there were many big institutions that helped smaller institutions. There were many repository packages. There are many platforms, some of which are very good, some of which are not so good. There was one that's used by a lot of the government bodies called CCAN, which is, it's okay. It's not the world's greatest repository, but it works great for simple data and simple publications. And I can see Kazu-san has fought with it. You know, it's, yeah. So there are options, but making people aware, it's, what's the term? It's like a vicious circle kind of thing. You need the repository to harvest it. You need the harvesting to show the value of the repository. You know, they feed on each other. So I think if we have NRENs or other big institutions that can help, and it becomes a source of pride for them too.
Yeah, I guess the difficult point, you know, how the people who doesn't have resources or the repository will come to this conversation. So how to invite, you know, how to find such a kind of, you know, the applicant to this the conversation.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said. I mean, I think the two things are the early adopters and the champions. You know, the early adopters are the ones who already understand it and they've moved on and they can demonstrate it. And the champions particularly in research disciplines. They're the ones that say, my life was transformed when I started using a repository and sharing my data. And I now know lots of champions in different disciplines. So, you know, if we can find more of those in Asia, I mean, I know them mostly in Australia and a few in Europe. If we can find more of those in Asia and get them to talk, preferably in keynotes, plenaries, we can do that. Make all the working groups aware of this, and all the NRENs and all the university IT managers. Yeah, that's a really good point. Getting these conversations, getting participation in them is important and hard.
So Sunny, so one of the things we have to think about, you know, how to bridge our how to broadcast our, you know, the conversation to the much more local communities, or, you know, the other big communities who are looking for the help.
So it is the time to reach out for the NREN now to see how they would cooperate with us. And
okay, so yeah, this is, you know, the one with the yeah, in so maybe we have to ask to them, but I don't know who's going to be the NREN representative.
Well, we have Marcus here.
Yeah, Marcus here. So not only having this conversation, no, just kidding. So maybe the Friday or Thursday, usually the APAN has the whole the session, the whole entire group will come to, and maybe the Chai will feedback some report, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the audience.
Oh, nobody asking yet. I don't know. They're asking that you need to report back to the plenary or not. I didn't see anything.
You've been asked, Chai.
I didn't see that. Maybe so many emails.
All the session chairs get asked.
Yeah.
Okay.
For the General Assembly on Friday.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So during that GA, so maybe the Chai, so you can report back, and then ask them to, you know, we need. So we are ready to support, you know, that orphan or something, you know, under your or community, and then maybe we can expand our activity, and then maybe, you know, having that kind of conversation during the GA. So maybe some of the working group guys will join to the open science data sharing and the session.
Okay, will do.
In fact, we should, I mean, Kazu-san, you made the point about getting people to speak about their national situation. We can also get the working group chairs to come along and talk about their discipline situation.
That's great.
That's like, you know, Surya talked about geosciences. So maybe we need to think about how we schedule that roundtable session so that it doesn't clash with working group sessions so much.
That's right. And not only the, you know, the specific discipline or area, so we also like to invite the technical area guys.
Yep.
Okay.
We need to start that question with as soon as we finish this meeting, I think. 2 weeks before the next APAN meeting is a bit late.
Maybe Iryna, you change the document you share into the note that you're typing now. I think it's much better. Because she's making the note, and then we can see it too.
I think she's also saying something, but I couldn't hear it.
Oh.
Yeah, I was also saying that we have 2 other areas of activities: workforce and culture activities. And maybe we could have a look at that as well. I think that would be an area useful for Sunny. So for the workforce, that's what Marcus listed in the concept paper. Identify disciplinary needs around skills. So workforce here basically means skills development, research data management skills, and then workshops to teach research data management issues in partnership with libraries, collation and distribution of reference materials, workshops and partnerships with similar groups. And I think if we do have a website, maybe a collection on that website could be on reusable training materials and guides.
Yep.
And if some of you runs training events on research data management or release guides that could be that exist in the languages that many of us could read, but even if it's in a national language, I think it's still useful to know that it's there. So maybe one of the activity could be to try to collect some materials that you consider useful, that you developed and use in your training activities, and you would like to share with others.
Mm-hmm. So this kind of what Iryna is saying, that Junichi-san can collect that with the support that you're gonna help out.
Yeah, and I'll be also happy to help on that.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think, Suni? Will that be useful?
Especially it's kind of the training course, so.
Oh, yeah, we can demonstrate that at least that for this time we get something. Okay, we get the website with everything inside, and then with the free software, open source software, and then we could aim for the next APAN to have a workshop about that for the whoever would like to get the training. Is that possible?
No, usually our training course, maybe for instance, please go ahead, Suni.
Oh, it's okay. You carry on first, Kazu.
So usually our training course for the research data management is mainly we are using the the PowerPoint slide. So it's a kind of the lecture. It's not the workshop. Mm-hmm. For the so maybe the child you imagine the data science workshop by using some tools or something.
Similar thing like that, yes, but no, okay.
Yeah, I think I am still trying to find out who are the people who are likely to attend the workshop. Are they researchers or are they research administrators? Are they repository managers or aspiring repository managers? Are they, yeah, what kind of profile are we looking at?
So the short answer is yes to all of that. I think each topic is targeted to a particular audience. So operating a repository is targeted at repository operators, whereas developing good metadata or establishing good metadata for your discipline has to talk to the researcher and the technical people supporting the researcher. And I think there are when you're talking to management, one of the golden rules when talking to a manager is you don't have more than 5 minutes. So having some short training materials to explain about why repositories are important and why it matters to an institution and why they need to spend money, that's a very short activity, I think. Whereas other things here, they could be a half-day workshop easily. So yeah, I'm being a bit glib with joking that yes to all of them. I think we need to map out what the audience is for each of these topics, and then find or create materials that suit. I just posted in the chat a collection of guides that were written for the Australian National Data Service. So that was one of the precursors to Research Data Australia, or Research Data Commons. So there's some really nice little guides and books there, and they also link off to the new website about training opportunities. So there's a nice repository of guides about repositories that we can already harvest. And I don't know whether Junichi wants to take care of that, or he'd prefer to tinker more on the technical stuff.
Yeah, we can support from such a kind of aspect, not only the discovery service, but also we have experience for running the cloud service for the the institution repository, and then we can share, how we started such activity in Japan and how it was effective and what's the problem we experienced so far. But this is a message for the much more the APAN technical people, or to the NREN people, how to support the real repository activity.
Yeah.
I mean the library activity from the tech point of view.
We're going to have to do some curation of all this information, aren't we?
Curation
we're gonna,
is a very
we have to organize it so that it's easy to find. It's very easy in the chat to have 200 URLs, but yeah, organizing it. Oh, Suni's volunteering. Great.
No.
No.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing all the information. Yeah. So we have researchers, we have repository managers, management policy makers, and we need people to curate the resources. So what platform are we looking at? Do we have a website that we can readily start using, or a blog, or what?
That data.apan.net website can be whatever we want. I would suggest it'll be a WordPress site, and we put in whatever modules we need. A blog is nice to sort of collect stories over time, but it's not a reference site usually. So something that looks a bit maybe more like a wiki, or something that people can contribute to, and shared editing roles can be handed out to the group that takes care of it. But if people have particular tools they like to use, we can install those.
Can you share the link in the chat?
Well, it doesn't exist yet, so this is
Not
just
yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
But this is the site we were talking about earlier in the paper.
Ah, I see.
But we'll set that up. I mean, that's easy to set up. It's what are all the features we need it to have. Because if it becomes a registry, if it's a machine created registry, it's different to a manually created registry.
Yeah.
And also maybe we can record, not this kind of a both discussion, but the school type, our session individually, the speakers, and then categorize some our the presentation, and then upload to the YouTube, and then have a link from that the site.
Yeah, sounds very exciting. I think I would love to contribute to the site. Yeah, so let's get started.
Yeah, and we can start really simply, and as long as the information is structured, we can migrate to something better as we go. Once we actually have a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I look forward to having the problem of too much information to share.
Yeah, probably. Like the standard, man, standard is like, God, too many standards, too many.
And so even the launching such the data apan.net. So the difficulty is how to continuously update the information, and the continuously gather the information. This is also the working group effort. Somehow.
Yeah, but the thing is we have to start.
Yeah, that's right.
We have to start. We or not we can asking the same question next meeting, which is not I don't like it.
No progress. Yeah, we have to
it should be a progress, and see how it goes, and we can adapt along.
That's great.
We used to have a phrase where we would say, "Don't let perfect be the enemy of good." We don't need to get it completely right the first day.
No. But the completely wrong is not good as well. No.
Sure.
In terms of outreach, is there like a master mailing list for APAN members, or is one working group one mailing list?
There's several mailing lists. So we have one mailing list for every working group, which is whatever community wants it to be. We have members mailing lists, which is basically the organizations that are members of APAN. That includes associates and affiliates and so on. So there's about 40 something organizations there. We then have the broader APAN announced mailing list, which is basically anybody who's ever been to an APAN meeting that has agreed to be on the mailing list. And so that's several thousand addresses now. I need to check how up to date it is, because I just found out we've had this meeting here has over 1,500 registrations. The joys of having a free meeting, everybody joins.
But not everybody show up.
Not everybody shows up, but the previous meeting, we had about 1,100 registrations and we had over 700 turn up at least once. So that's pretty good.
It's good.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. And all of the people on that list, of course, are on their own lists as well. So some of them are researchers, some of them are technical people. They have their own communities. So yeah, I mean, are there other kinds of lists you're looking for, Sini?
No, I'm just thinking about if we want to run workshops for these various groups of people, how would people know that there are workshops for them to sign up for? Yeah.
So we certainly announced the whole APAN program, and we can feature particular activities. There is no natural community for data managers, no natural mailing lists. So that's something we can work on.
Yeah. How big is the mailing list for this working group?
For this current, I mean, for this open and sharing current one?
Yeah.
Let me check.
20?
Not
30?
many. Oh yeah, around that, but let me
I thought
check.
it was getting up to about 30.
Where is it?
It's still young.
Yeah, because we also need permission for the people to
I mean,
get their name.
There are other
in.
networks too, while Chai is counting. So in Australia, New Zealand, and nearby, we have the Council of Australasian University Directors of IT, or CAUDIT. We have CAUL, which is the Council of Australasian University Librarians.
31, sorry, 31.
31, there you go.
Yeah.
We're doing okay. It's a good start. And we have, there's another one, which is the research management officers of the universities of Asia that I'm aware of as well. They have a conference that moves around called ARMS, Asian Research, you know it.
Yeah,
So those are another good.
Very expensive.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So you know, there are those community channels we can also use. But yeah, I'm not aware of anybody sort of maintaining lists of repository managers, but this is how we find them.
And we have Core, COAR, Core Asia, OA mailing list as well. Would the APAN workshops be open to non-APAN members?
Absolutely. Are you an APAN member?
No, I don't know. Sorry.
No,
the Singapore NREN is a member of APAN, only in the sense, particularly that they fund APAN, they contribute a subscription. But all APAN meetings are open to anybody. As long as they have an interest in research and education, they're welcome to join. And when we have face-to-face meetings, we'll charge them some money because it's expensive to run a meeting somewhere, but virtual meetings are free to all, which is why we get such a great turnout. And every
they are
working
always
group,
free? Are they always free?
no,
it's like
I mean,
400 US for registration at least.
Yeah.
400 US
for a week-long conference, depending on where you are. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Which is why we only get 300 to 400 people at those meetings. But part of that is also awareness. I'm hoping that after COVID, we have at least one benefit, which is that a lot more people know about APAN and the working groups.
How about online sessions? Has APAN ever charged?
We haven't gone strongly on hybrid meetings yet, because there's a concern that if you go completely hybrid, most people will attend remotely. And then they get distracted by their day job and they have issues with the time difference. So having everybody in physically together is good.
Fully
So
online?
maybe in the Sunny, so in that case, we can think about, how to separate the two different sessions. The one is the physical, the APAN regular twice a year, the session, maybe that's going to move to the physically, or so maybe not possible to be the always open in public, but at the same time, as an APAN activity or this working group activity, we can host some, webinars.
Yes.
It's going to be open in public, and aware the real physical, the member to this working group.
And quite a few working groups do that. The telemedicine working group runs a meeting every month or so. So that's, it's certainly doable. And the other thing too is that we are focusing after COVID to have more hybrid support, and also to have more focus on recordings, so that all the sessions will be available after an APAN meeting. So that, if we run a workshop, we can make that available on demand as well. And at better quality than some of the ones that I've seen, like APNIC, which I think basically uses somebody with a phone in the front row, it's blending into the background. Somebody in the phone taking a video of an entire workshop for 3 hours. Quality is not that great. We have to do better.
And also speaking about connections, SUNY co-chairs Libraries for Research Data RDA interest group, and I'm involved in data stewardship RDA interest group, and education and training interest group. And
I'm part of the Research Data Alliance interest group for Libraries for Research Data. So we are planning for a session in this coming June, and we'll be focusing on open science badges.
We had Hillary from RDA give a keynote at the last APAN, second last APAN.
Yes, I think, last time.
Yeah, and when she and I talked about it before and afterwards, she said she was really keen to build up activities in the Asia Pacific region as well. So, what that looks like, we can decide yet. So hopefully,
but, the Marcus program is, who can pay for that regional activity.
Yep.
So their business model is, the much more severe than we thought.
Yep. So, oh, Jenny's sneaking in. Sorry,
hi, Jenny. We have one more area, and I think it's good that Jenny joined now, because it's about culture. And these are some of the suggestions: collation and distribution of publications on the merits, benefits of open access data, the cost of failing, survey of national policies and frameworks, survey of discipline publisher frameworks, survey of institutional approaches to research data. And I think that's another important area where we could collect some maybe case studies from different institutions or countries, and share experiences, and it won't require as much resources as other activities we discussed.
So we can find, sorry, please go ahead.
Collection of good practices on, I don't know, setting up research data management services in institutions, for example, or national research data services. Apologies, Kazu, please carry on.
What I wanted to say is that we have to gather or invite a appropriate person from each country to be able to to gather this kind of information.
I don't think that they're in the NRENs necessarily, but I would hope that many of the NRENs would know the people. So we could ask the NRENs to identify a good point of contact.
Yeah. So the Chai, so during the GA, you have to give a message to the other guys.
Okay. Write it then, so I can send it. You please, maybe a couple of sentences.
Yeah.
You can write in the document, the note that Iryna set up, the direct message. You just share. So please take a look at that as well. Maybe you can share this, Iryna, the document, so others can see.
You should just put it in the chat.
Yeah, right. You just put it. This is the one. So far, what are we?
I don't think it's Chai to report. I think it's Chai to demand that they get involved. I mean,
I would love to demand, but even email they not reply. It is okay, Virginia. So okay, maybe we can get the bullet points and the message to send. We have another half an hour, so we just get it down to that. What we would like to do for this from now on until the next APAN. So what we got is that we'll start the website with the support from Junichi-san, and then Sunny also would like to contribute, and Iryna could contribute whatever that she already have in the website. Is that agreed? Everybody agreed to do this? Okay.
Okay, I agree.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah,
we can start to do that. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just put in a line to say that I can contribute to the content.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, we can start. And then what should I demand from them at the General Assembly? What sentence should I say? Like what kind of keywords?
So I think we're going to call the members to ask for their help.
Okay.
To find the key contacts in their economy around research data broadly, because we're going to help them build a registry of. Oh, I can see Virginia now. Hey, we're going to be building the website. We're going to be building this registry, and we need to understand what is happening in their community. And if they have somebody in their organization who can help us, ideal. And if they don't, we'd ask them to forward on our questions. I think because where I mentioned a few places, I talk about surveys. One of the things I'm always sensitive of is you don't want to run surveys too often, because you really tick off the participants. So we want to be very selective when we survey the community. So I'm just watching 3 people typing in the document at the same time. It's very distracting.
And I was wondering about key contacts. Shall we set up a spreadsheet where they could add this information? And then what kind of fields we'd like to have in that spreadsheet? I guess country, name, contact detail, and maybe
A
notes.
role or location.
No.
Yeah. I mean, we can design that in this group here and then share an editable spreadsheet or just ask people to reply to an email. We can do the editing.
Yeah, we can invite volunteers who may want to contribute a workshop, webinar.
And when we're doing things like looking for documents and guides and all those sorts of things and URLs, I mean, one of the things to keep in mind too is that things like shared spreadsheets don't work in every economy. You know, you can't use Google Docs in China, for example. Not reliably, let me put it that way. So having email at least as a fallback is a good position. Sorry, that's a minor technical detail, but it's just one that's bitten me a few times.
Hi, Ginny.
Hi, sorry to be joining late.
No, it's
apologies.
okay.
I hope it's okay to drop in.
So we are
Hello.
right now the lighting, the maybe I will put it again if you didn't see it. So please check the chat box and the lighting this Google document, and then you know trying to figure out.
Secretary, would you milk her? Can you do it, Marcus?
I'm not the host.
I'm not the
And
host.
VR1.
4-4 हजार के देखिए वो सोच रहे होंगे ना कि पंजाब में रहते हैं तो पंजाब में हैवी सूट अलग से दिखते हैं अगर तो सिंपल देगी तो उसमें लगेगा हाँ क्या 1500 1000 का सूट ले ले
Technical support, can you please mute Anjali?
हाँ बट यार पता है क्या रितिका जैसे मैं भी ज्यादा वो नहीं करती बट मेरी मदर कहती है कि फिर भी अंजलि थोड़े बहुत सबको दिखाने के लिए रखो मैंने कहा मम्मी जब मैं पहनती नहीं तो मैं क्यों लूं अब जैसे मैंने बर्थडे पे पहना था दैट कॉस्ट मी अराउंड 6000 कश्मीरी सूट था स्पेशल जो पूरा उसका दुपट्टे का डिग्री होता है और जो सिलाई वगैरह सब मिला के 6000 मैं मम्मी को बोला मम्मी मैं इतना सूट कहाँ पहनती हूँ जीन्स में जाती हूँ कहते हैं अंजलि वो कोई बात नहीं है मैं तुम्हें कभी मना किया मैंने तुम्हें जीन्स या कोई भी मैं मीडिया पहन के घूमती हूँ घर में शॉर्ट ड्रेसेस पहनती हूँ मम्मी कहते हैं बाहर जो कॉलोनी है ना जो हमें नोटिस कर रहे हैं हमारे घर को नोटिस कर रहे हैं वो तुम आगे रिप्रेजेंट करोगे कि इनकी बहू जा रही है तो कम से कम पार्टीज के लिए बहुत हैवी लगना चाहिए 10-10 हजार के सूट है मैंने कहा ठीक है मम्मी ले ले उनकी खुशी के लिए लेना पड़ता है यार हम नहीं
Thank you.
Okay, good. Continue, please. It's happened also yesterday. Yeah. Yeah. But please continue. Where were we? Okay, to run workshop is next time if we could, but this time we start the UI out and then get the support or the content. But we have to agree of what kind of, I mean, the look of the website. How should it, you know, look? What the structure of it, like simple one?
Even having the simple one at the beginning, maybe we have to think about the structure at the beginning, you know, for the future. Otherwise, you know, it's gonna be so messy.
So can you have a good example that we just like use it? So don't have to discuss too much. I mean, like we have to keep discussing, but the one that already have like in Japan or in Australia that can be let's say copy and use it.
I think, you know, the one of the idea is just copying the website like the Marcus that pointed out. And then, so how do you think about it? Maybe not just copying the real website, but maybe at the beginning we have to investigate the structure of the website first, and then maybe write it down in a spreadsheet and then check it out. between
I think
us.
let's if we can, I mean, rather than copying somebody and trying to rebuild it, let's write down the functionality.
Mm.
You know, what do we want it to do? You know, there might be 4 big sections, or there might be 10 middle-sized sections. I don't know. Because some of these things are just going to be easy wiki or editable pages. Others might be an actual tool that we have to integrate. So yeah, let's maybe just in the working group here, we can discuss it and come up with a plan.
Okay. Junichi-san, would you be able to get that, the framework out, and then people can discuss?
I understand about the, at first we need to construct some mock-up or some component of this new website. And
no, just describe the structure of the website.
Yeah.
In
okay.
the spreadsheet or something.
Okay. First, I'll prepare.
I can give editing rights to that data site to anybody who wants to participate, and we can use that as the mock-up, because until we promote it, people won't know it's there.
Right.
All right.
We've just had a discussion about that for similar initiative in Africa, and
oh, really?
We just used WordPress. So we have like three pillars: policies, infrastructure, capacity building, and then like about news events, resources, support. So that's like simple structure we came up with. So maybe we could follow
Those
similar.
3 pillars look a lot familiar.
Yeah. I'll add a link to this website, and content isn't there yet because we had wiki and we're still moving the content, but the structure could be copied.
How many people can edit that site, Iryna? Yeah. Is that shared, or is somebody central?
We have a team of people who have editing rights.
Okay.
Surya, you have anything to suggest? You send out a lot of URL about the standard.
Yes. No, I don't have much to say right now. Actually, I'm new to this working group, so I'm not sure about the activities as such and what all the domains that you work with. So what I understood is that this is not related to only geospatial data, but it's much more than that. You encompass many more domains. But from the domain that I come from is mostly from a geospatial background. So that's the reason why I have recommended many of these kind of standards, and how there are already well-tested, already deployed solutions for the kind of problems that we are discussing, especially in the geosciences domain. So if we want to get a head start, maybe we can just take those things and start deploying in this data.apan.net. So to start with, if we want to do a registry or a catalog for geoscience related data, we can just take the OGC catalog service, deploy it, and we can start acquiring all the related information. So just that's all I have.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, like, but the problem is that there's too many details. It's not working in Thailand. We already put it in the law for the standard in the geoinformatics, all those OGCs, so many of them, and then nobody doing it because so much detail to fill in. So that's why it's quite difficult to implement. You can have it, but difficult to implement because it's too much detail. So maybe we need to discuss that if we would like to really do that much detail, but now we would start the simple one first.
Okay. because in India, in our nation's special data infrastructures, we have already implemented this. Even in our one of our primary like a Google Earth engine, we have what is called as the Bhuvan from our Indian Space Organization, in which also we have deployed many of these OGC standards, and they are all working fine. So
okay. In Thailand, we announced it 15 years ago. Nothing moving. It's just the same. Guaranteed was one of them.
Because now there are many open source implementations of the standards available. So we don't need to work much. All we need to understand is that implementation. And
so at least we know that in the geospatial side, everything almost ready.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And other concept of the open data cube is now going across the domains, not only in geospatial, but on many areas. So if APAN can be the champion for open data cubes, open data kind of a concept.
Yeah, they came last time for the last meeting.
Okay.
But I have to ask Eric again, not here because it's supposed to be here. He's working on the data queue for Taiwan, I believe, but he's not here. Yeah, that's a good one too, but not really. I don't know. Continue discussion. I guess it's my bad. My mistake. Need to approach more. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
No, thank you. Okay, not many. Iryna, would you review us again what we from the each bullet? Is it we cover? Don't have to be all, but a couple that feasible for now.
Sorry, I'm moving some content. I need both hands for that.
No, it's okay.
So we have
so how many bullets we have now? Okay.
This regional harvester or aggregator or maybe discovery service.
Okay. Collect resources. Did you mean that in any discipline or just particular some of them?
We have a number of activities listed under workforce, like training materials to teach research data management or guides. So everything related to research data management that exists already and could be useful for others.
Okay.
Start with, and then if we see some gaps, maybe we could create some resources together.
Okay.
Yeah, it's better to start with the neutral part.
And then run workshops.
Anything else for to emphasize this time?
What kind of timeline are we looking at?
Oh, good question.
I was thinking 1 year, maybe as a plan. Well, as a plan, and then of course start as soon as possible.
So don't push like last time, Marcus. Last time you said 1 month enough, and then I said until the end of the year.
3, yep. I think we should be able to demonstrate progress under these headings by the next meeting.
Yeah. So maybe have some interim report to the General Assembly also have to give.
Right. Okay. So roughly like let's say 5 months. But next time when? I forgot. August or September? August. Okay.
Where?
Nepal.
So China is the host, but
China.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Because I don't think China will open its borders by then. But I mean, we can do things like we could launch the website before, by then or at then, if it's well populated, and start to attract more interest.
Yeah, I think we should aim like we can launch before. So when we have the announcement for the APAN, next APAN, we can add that into the website that people can see.
Yeah. Okay.
Is it okay? Okay. Yeah.
The plan is planned.
The plan is planned. Yeah. It's always can change. Yeah. You can plan.
We used to joke that when we did a contract with the government, you had to list milestones, and the first milestone was always define other milestones. I did that so many times.
Yeah.
Thank you, Iryna.
Yeah, thank you very much. So we cover most of we would like to see at this time. Anybody would like to add anything?
No, I'm hooked.
Okay. Yeah, to get the working group shares and all the NREN to join, it's well, I involved with like 4 or 5 of them. I could be, but it's gonna be me to do it again. It's like what? We need more than the cooperation than that, because agricultural, a disaster, and then the hybridization or something that e-culture they can. I think Andrew can. Is it, Marcus? Yeah, I miss e-culture this time. There's so many things, but yeah.
Chai?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I see that Professor Francis Lee is with us. Francis, he's from the Singapore NREN.
Yeah. Where is he? I don't see him in here. No.
Is Francis here? Francis Lee, Bu Song.
He came and he left.
Is Song Lee the same as Bu Song Lee?
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Oh, really?
Is that you, Francis?
Yeah, it's me.
Oh, okay.
No,
Wow.
he always hide.
Oh,
It's a good bleach.
Yeah. So we were talking about reaching out. Chai will reach out to the different NRENs to seek their support for this work that we hope to do at the General Assembly this Friday. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. I think as Marcus know, we need to hold this session for about 3 times before we form a working group. Am I right?
correct. Yeah.
We're already a working group, Francis.
Yeah,
We've already done this.
Bird of the feather for a long time.
Yeah,
like that.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm supportive of it. You know, I think it's an opportunity to get this group of information analysts. My wife teach me not to use the word librarian, use other words. Yeah, but they are a custodian of information for us, and I think that's really good. Is how to deploy and get agreement from different entities. That will be an issue.
That was on our list of things. But what Suni didn't quite tell you was that Chai is going to lean on you for your work to contribute by making introductions and writing papers for us.
Yes, and also funding.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's
right.
given. You know, Singapore.
I think you're speaking to the wrong Francis now. Yeah, that you know about the NNA, right? The need analysis, and one of the things down there was actually a library. You know, access to information. I think the call is coming up pretty soon, and it will be good if people to gather together to at least kickstart as a catalyst. But it has to think about sustaining itself. Okay, when writing that paper, it has to talk about sustain, how it's going to sustain itself in the longer run. Yeah.
Can you send me the link for that, Francis, please?
Uh,
Not right now.
Not now,
Yeah,
not now, later.
We're just in the
I'll
last few minutes of conversation.
Yeah. Certainly, I'll get you the link. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, Suhaimi.
Oh, now
yes,
he turns
Chai.
up.
Yeah, he's back.
I just joined. I'm back. Now, I've been away for a while, but have we actually discussed about data sharing governance yet?
It's one of our activities, yes.
Because the data sharing governance, even within, I'm talking about Malaysia, even within institution in Malaysia, different ministries having different research institute, they struggle to actually doing the sharing of the data. And the data that they have is actually the data that is already been able to be harvested by Google. So this is just a metadata which is actually consisting of abstract, not actually a real data, not actually a data in which, if I can use the word bluntly, usable for others, because it is just an information. It is not the data that can be reused or repurposed for other things. So I do not know how for the international. So even for local, I'm sure this will be shared by many economies. The data sharing governance.
We just talked about the gathering the current situation in terms of the policy perspective.
Okay.
And then the maybe the compared each other, and then maybe the trying to build some catalog side.
Okay. So that means we are not ambitious into actually starting to share and everything. It is just at least at the helicopter view now, right, Kazu?
Yeah, that's right. But at this moment, we don't have appropriate person in this working group. So the Chai will try to gather the person during the General Assembly and to reach out via NREN guys to that, the person.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. I will share with how they are doing as far as NREN in Malaysia is concerned, because we have a unique situation. I know, Kazu, you will be smiling, but this has been a pending thing for years.
Each the Southeast Asian country has a weird situation.
Yeah, same in Thailand as well.
Oh my God!
So Jaime, don't worry.
I know. I'm just sharing my concern. I'm not saying about whether
that's why we are ASEAN.
I know, full of diversity and full of uniqueness in each other. Yeah. Okay, that's my comment. Hello, Iryna. We meet again.
Hello, Sir Jaime, and Codator is looking into data governance. They have a legal and policy working group.
Yes.
I'm on that working group, so I can be sharing some progress.
Great. Yes. Thank you.
Any further comment? All the bullet points are enough, nah? Because I think even those we try to achieve before next time. So, any other comments? Please.
I may have to run off soon. I have another meeting. Yeah. Thanks for having me here today. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for coming. Yeah.
Thanks for being here. Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining.
Stay safe, Iryna.
Yeah, another asteroid coming your way. So anything else?
Yeah, just give hugs to Iryna.
Yeah.
And then
Suhaimi said something. Oh, okay.
No,
Iryna shared to
didn't.
Suhaimi.
Yeah.
Oh, he will never look. He just come and go. That's him.
Of course he will. He has a lot of time now.
So he's gone already. Yeah. See, he's not there. You can call him now. Suhaimi, 3 times. See? No,
in a chat box.
Oh, he's at a chat. Okay.
Okay.
Okay then. I'll try to okay, I'll sum up it in the Google Doc and then the report to the plenary General Assembly on Friday. So, but I didn't know what time because I will look at the email. So many email. Yeah, during I think who was sent out too many email, and then it's like, oh my, when you look like, whoa, so many of them.
I've made a few requests for feature changes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, too many. So we have to
also a reminder. We've got Idris's session after the plenary late tonight, our time. And Idris, we might need to work out how we get a report from you to the General Assembly on Friday.
Right. Okay. Actually, we do have Virginia Barber here too, so she would be coming to join us tonight. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, but on Friday, the General Assembly, I needed like a 2-minute, 2-slide summary of the session. But if you can't present that, I know your schedule is really full, so you and I might need to have a quick chat if you want me to do it.
Okay. All right. We'll see how it goes.
And next time we do it together, we're not separate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be good.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
Better that way, it's confusing. You have two similar things on the same, I mean, within APAN. So better combine to one. Yeah, I think it's much better.
I think there were scheduling issues too, because I think, Idris, you've got somebody coming from Europe, haven't you?
That's right. We have Dr. Kostas Klinos. He cannot come earlier than that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, Iryna, how early is it at where you are?
I started at 5 in the morning, so now it's okay. Now it's 8:30.
You've had breakfast, I hope.
Not yet.
Not yet. He just had an airstrike. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's
so
breakfast.
Much
I think that's breakfast. Airstrike in the early morning.
That's an exercise to run to the basement.
Okay.
Morning exercise.
Okay. Stay safe, nah? Stay safe.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Veerachai. That was very, very interesting session. And everybody, I really appreciate meeting you all. And I really look forward to read more about, know more about the points that you've already written in the shared document. Thank you.
You can add more later, but now because you have the link. But like Marka says, it's going to be only 2 minutes talk. So and I have to be quick.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else? If not, if you have time, please join this session later at what is it, 3:30 Bangladesh time. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
I'll try to sneak in.
Oh, good. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Then thank you and stay safe. And
you too.
Thank you very much. And see you.
All right. See you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.